Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McKusick, and we're here to discuss the offense from that win over the Commanders in the third week of the preseason. Joining me to do that is Jim ZipCode. Big win for the Ravens.
No.
Knocked the crap out of them. No.
Preseason game 3 is not a big win. I'm sorry.
I liked it from the standpoint that they talked about getting lots of shots on goal in terms of
Yeah.
turnovers, and they got it done in this game and didn't have to play a lot of offense in this game. When you get 4 turnovers and create a lot of short fields and have a pick six in there, you're pretty well going to win, particularly when you don't turn the ball over yourself.
I also liked, and this is something that you pointed out pre-show, how both coaches kind of managed the game in such a way as to just get it over with. Run the football, let the clock go.
Yeah, very much. I like it when there are 2 adult coaches in the
Yes.
house. We didn't have that for the Tampa Bay game last year, and fortunately, it didn't work out against the Ravens, but it certainly worked out against Tampa Bay because Godwin got injured in
Oh, right.
in
Yeah.
garbage time. Yeah, and that it didn't make a lot of sense. And anyway, the Ravens did a good job, I thought, and Quinn did a good job along with Harbaugh of getting the game done. I liked a lot of the coaching camaraderie on the sidelines we saw. It's obvious Zach Orr really likes working with John Harbaugh, which is a
Yes.
good thing to see. So we talked about that a little on the defense show, but we'll still try and stick with the offense here. We're going to go through this. We're going to talk about a little bit about the order of entry. We're going to talk about what we think it means for the roster. Jim and I will each have our chance to go through the roster and talk about some differences because that's what is on everybody's mind later today. If you're probably listening to this, it maybe already the roster has been created because if you're listening to this after 4 p.m. on Tuesday and we're recording this late Monday night, then the decisions have all been made.
Right.
But give you a time frame anyway in terms of when we're doing this. Seemed to be another heavy workload for Rasheen Ali in the game, which I wasn't really expecting, given that he's been anointed already onto the roster.
It's interesting that it's interesting to just try to figure out how to take that. So Harbaugh says that we would like to keep 4 running backs, but Ali's usage does not suggest that he has cleared the bar. And do you want them to keep 4 running backs, not counting Patrick Ricard as a running back? Because I don't.
No, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I particularly if it means no 10th offensive lineman.
Hmm.
The 10th offensive lineman I would not compromise on. I still think that as well as Carson Vincent has played these last 2 weeks, and he's played very well for a developmental rookie.
Right.
A pair of C games, which is I can't even tell you how good that is. I don't want him to play because I think that he'll be a step below. I think the Ravens already are stuck with only 3 offensive tackles. The one thing they could do is they could try and sneak somebody else onto the injured list by keeping only 9 on the roster tomorrow, and that would mean Ben Cleveland would be the most likely handshake guy. He and Hummel really are the 2 likely on the team. They're vets who have almost no guaranteed money in each case.
Do you think that the relationship between Cleveland and the staff is such that he is eager to enter a handshake agreement?
It's a $64,000 question. Does Ben Cleveland really feel like the Ravens have played it straight with him during his entire
Does
4
he feel
years
like
here?
they value him?
Yeah. I think that's a legitimate question, and I think there might be another team out there that basically says we want Ben Cleveland, but Ben Cleveland comes with a lot of baggage. Obviously he never got in the starting lineup here in Baltimore, and Baltimore knows offensive line play, whatever you feel like, and they're playing Daniel Falele over him, so it's not like there wasn't a player there who was struggling a little bit, at least in the first 14 games of last year, where he could have been replaced. But they never pulled the trigger on him.
So, so Rasheen Ali, so if he comes at the cost of a 10th offensive lineman, and I know this isn't that show, but like somebody like Okoye or somebody who would be an extra defensive player who you would not want to expose to the waivers process to other teams, because I don't think, we fall in love with our guys, right? But I don't think that Rasheen Ali is going to be in particular demand if he hits the waiver wire Tuesday afternoon. I don't think that there's going to be a clamor to sign him away from us. God, we're not exposing Keaton Mitchell, and I think every team has has that guy who is, the edge of the roster running back who runs hard and's got a little bit of pop to him, but every team's got that guy.
Could completely agree. I think the only thing that could be working in Ali's favor to make a roster somewhere is the fact that the new kickoff rules may emphasize needing an additional running back on a lot of rosters. So if let's think of this at a macro level. If your average number of running backs carried per team was 3.2 in
Mhm.
2024, and I don't know what it was, and it's 3.4 this year, then you need zero point 0.2 times 32, or you need 6.4
Six.
additional running backs across the entire NFL. And Ali would be in a small group that would, the 6.4 would be drawn from. And when I say a small group, a group of 25 maybe,
Yeah.
where those 6.4 drawn. So then there'd be a chance he gets taken. He gets kept. And I guess that means gets claimed, so taken. I think 15 to 20% is the risk of losing him. Looking at it tonight, I saw Audric Estime got cut earlier today.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of guy that would maybe make sense for kickoffs, and also be a running back that might some teams might want as a fourth.
Does I believe I've heard you mention in the past that Rasheen Ali brings a lot of special teams value.
Not a lot of special teams value other than the kickoff return.
Oh, okay.
So he covers kicks, but he's actually played pretty little. He may have also jammed on punt returns, but I don't think he's a really big time like 4 unit special teams guy. He doesn't cover punts. That's out of his bailiwick, and I don't think he's on the punt return team either. He's a smaller guy. Bad pass blocker, not a good blocker in general. So when you have other guys matched up on him, like linebackers or tight ends, they'll have a big advantage, or outside linebackers, they'll have a big advantage on him, trying to get past him to make a tackle. So you don't generally want him blocking on the end. He'd only be good as a jammer.
He, I don't see that he's worth a initial 53-man day one roster spot. Not, I mean, if you think about it, we're already keeping four running backs because a fullback is, a running
Mm-hmm.
back. We got the tight ends. Um, I just don't see a case for him, and I think that Ali's usage in this game kind of underscores that. Now, when I think of what Ali could turn into, it seems to me that he's, let's say, 2 years away, maybe 1 year away from being Justice Hill.
So he caught 5 passes in this game, but the one way he is definitely not Justice Hill is he's really not a good receiving running back.
Hmm.
The very previous game against the Cowboys, ball went right through his hands for interception. This game, he put the ball on the ground at the end of a run. He fortunately recovered it himself, but that's too much for the number of touches he's had this preseason. He's had 43, or if you had his targets and his 37 rushes, by the way, in one preseason by a running back, should tell you the guy's not a huge candidate to make the team.
Bill Walsh used to draft a guy in the lower rounds specifically to chew up preseason carries, and he would cut him at the end of the preseason. He's
A
just the
UDFA will do that.
Yeah,
So I guess maybe
exactly.
in Bill Walsh's era, there was more than 7 rounds too. You
Right,
could,
it was the 12-round draft era,
yeah.
right? So, the 10th round, maybe he gets a running back who, wow, that guy's going to look great in preseason, and you're never going to hear from him again. But he needed to get through 4 games, not 3 games of preseason. He needed to chew up
Mm-hmm.
carries, and he wasn't going to throw Roger Craig out there. So,
How stupid does it seem, in a relative sense, that going back to the days of my youth, anyway, in the 1970s, they were playing 6 preseason games prior to 1978. Then they cut it to 4, and then they cut it to 3, where it is now. Every preseason game is too many. Is one too many.
I um I mostly agree with you on that. And uh if I'm being honest, I fell asleep during this one and I did not watch the second half. So I did not do all of my homework to prep for this. Um I
Okay.
think that this year and last year, Sandusky and Woodson, while doing the games, have made the most compelling case possible for these games, which is that this is the opportunity for for so and so to make his case to be on a roster somewhere. Um, So, trying to drum up the drama of, this is how this undrafted free agent is going to stick. Does Jay Higgins, make an eloquent case to be on a squad without any preseason games?
Right.
Um, I'm fine with two, but I'm fine with zero. I don't care about these games.
Yeah, they just have joint practices instead if they had zero.
Yeah.
And you'd make a big deal out of that, but you do a 2-day joint practice with
Hmm.
one team, probably, and a 2-day joint practice with another,
Yep.
and that would fulfill your preseason needs. And then you'd be on to the regular season being 20 games. And I think everybody'd be pretty happy with that. I know every football fan would be very happy with it. I'm not sure the football players would all be that happy with
Well,
it.
I agree with that.
Some
Doesn't
shorts.
it seem? It seems to me that I only started hearing about joint practices fairly recently. Like I want to say within the last 6-ish years, give or
Yeah, that's
take.
about right.
What an
Yeah.
interesting innovation that is. Where did that come from? I would love to have like a little history of the joint practice thing and where it came from, whose idea it was,
Yeah,
how it
I'm not sure.
proliferated.
I kind of recall the Ravens being among the avant-garde in doing this. And it might have been with the Jaguars. They did it once really early. But I'd have to go back and actually check to see what's happened. It was a good thing to do, and I think the new innovation in it is that you don't do them for 2 days. You only do them for one, and your bad blood doesn't
Right, yeah,
spill
day
over
two
from
is
one day to
chippy.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's interesting too. I would wonder actually if the Harbaugh brothers were one of the first pairs of coaches to, shared values and all that sort of stuff.
could
Uh,
be.
yeah.
Yeah, they did have a 49ers shared practice at some point. All right, let's keep going on this. We need to talk about
Hey,
the
dedicated
offenses.
fans, you're listening to the germination of a upcoming film study short on the history of
Joint
of
practices. There you
joint
go.
practice. Yeah.
Um, I would say the entire offensive line rested in this game, the starting offensive
Yeah.
line, which is good. The backups, I thought there was inconsistent play, but we got some real flashes from some players that I'm very excited about. And we have scoring on three different players on Vincent, Dellinger, and Bullock that we'll get into in part two of the show. So please stay tuned for that.
Okay.
Um,
I was really pleased that Vincent went the distance.
yeah,
I think just talk about a guy who needs the reps and the game awareness and all of that sort of stuff. Like I agree with you uh, about the curve, right? Like he's graded as a C, and that is awesome for where he is as a low round drafted developmental offensive tackle. Come the regular season, a C is not what you're looking for on Lamar's blind side, but that's a perfectly great ground floor for him to start his career on.
yeah, I think it's dependent on your player. If you're talking about what you get out of your backup left tackle, I'm not at all convinced we get that out of Noteboom.
Mm.
I think if Vincent came in and was a C replacing Stanley during the regular season, I consider it one of the biggest potential wins and potentially one of the biggest reasons why the Ravens make whatever playoff push they do.
Rescued their season,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
I wouldn't mind. You talked about not wanting to see Vincent during the regular season. I'm remembering in 2019 when Lamar spent like the last 10 minutes of a lot of fourth quarters laughing on the bench and trying on
mhm.
sunglasses and stuff. If they want to bring in the backup offensive line and the developmental tackle in situations like that, that's fine. Though that's the situation where I would like to see Vincent.
So there is a complication to that. So if they you dress 8 offensive linemen for a game, and you
Mm.
never would dress 9, not ever, unless your whole team has COVID or you've got more walking wounded that you can handle or whatever. And a couple of years ago, that did happen. Salah was active for a game. He didn't play, but he was active for a game as the ninth offensive lineman. I do not recall any other time where the Ravens have done it for any single game. So
Interesting.
basically, the problem with 8 is that you would not typically go with 4 and 4. I guess you could if there was some significant health problem at tackle or even 2 dinged up guys you were trying to get through the game somehow. But if once you have Noteboom as your third tackle and maybe you have Cleveland as your emergency right tackle after that, then you just don't have anything left, and you really need you'd be playing it a little too thin and a little bit too risky if you went with 4 to make 3 on the inside.
Do you,
I
yeah,
think.
so do you, with with three backups, do you have one backup center, one backup guard, and one backup tackle? Or do you have one backup IOL, who's either a guard or a center, and a backup tackle and another guy who could be
Two backup IOLs and one backup tackle plus one guy from your IOL that you use at tackle in an emergency.
okay?
So that'd be the way they go. It could be one. It could be your emergency situation is a player like McCary, who might be a starter, moving out to tackle.
Right.
If that's the case, the Ravens they don't have that guy obviously this year. So Ben Cleveland comes into the year as being the guy who could be a movable piece. So we'll see if he ends up having that McCary like versatility. I doubt it. But he's got a lot more size. So hopefully,
No one's going to have that McCary like versatility. Do you think you said that they always dress 8, they never dress 9? Is some of that because they had McCary? I mean, because he okay.
No, it's the roster rules basically say, first of all, if you have 3 injuries on the offensive line, you still are covered with 8. Okay, and that would be, I mean, if you have a 4th injury on the offensive line, I mean, just throw your arms up and put a tight end up in there at tackle and deal with a horrible situation. But it's that will not save you.
We have Patrick Ricard.
I mean, you could end up with Patrick Ricard at guard or something like that in a game like that, or maybe even a tackle. But the point is this: that the roster rules say you get 1 extra roster spot if you roster an 8th offensive lineman on game day. And it used to be teams would only roster 7, and this is a concession to the players to basically say, hey, we want to create an extra roster spot, and I don't know whether the owners or the players suggested that it be an offensive lineman so the quarterbacks are more protected and the league is in better shape. So anyway, this is a relatively recent, last decade, that rule change came in, and it's been a good one, I think.
It's so interesting, though, the little ins and outs and mechanics of game day activations and what governs that. I think you examine that a lot over the history of your podcast, but I don't think it's something that's in the forefront of most Ravens fans' minds.
Yeah, this is a very deep Ravens team, so it's a case where game day inactivations are going to be hard to come by. And David Ajabo is an example of a player who makes it very easy for him to be a game day inactive because he doesn't really play special teams, or not a lot. He plays on the punt blocking team, but he also plays on the plays on one of the kick teams, I think. It might be on the kick block team.
That sounds right.
But he doesn't play a lot of special teams. He's basically only there as an outside linebacker. If you've got 4 outside linebackers, that's enough. You don't need a 5th guy, which makes Ajabo's spot one that I know it was a big deal that he apparently is going to make the roster, but I think he's going to be inactive a lot of weeks. It's too on this roster, with how deep it is. You're trying to figure out which special teams players can you get on the roster, and it becomes difficult. Yeah. All right, let's talk. Let's move a little forward here because we need to do this. Order of deployment is something I've just kind of gone through each week and talked about this, but we obviously had Rush come in the game first, led the team on 2 touchdown drives, which I thought was really good. Rush has played now 2 weeks in a row.
Yep.
To end the preseason.
He looked well. So I pulled out a quote from Mike Tannier's Monday morning column that I want to share with you, and it deals with backup quarterbacks in general. But before I read, Cooper, I thought Rush looked, alert, decisive, authoritative, getting the play in, getting the play called, throwing within, 3 seconds or whatever. Like he just wasn't messing around. He looked like the experienced professional that we were led to expect from him, which I thought was fantastic.
You said you had something to read.
Yeah, well, I thought you were about to speak, so I thought I would look up the thing that I want to read.
Oh, okay. Well, while you look it up, then let me just talk a little bit about Rush.
Yeah.
The thing that I've liked the last 2 weeks is he's gotten the ball off in the face of pressure very effectively.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And nobody has any idea what's about to hit them. Well, they do because they've seen Lamar Jackson play before. But the Ravens have shown nothing on offense. Nothing at all. And, several of the things that go with this. Lucas Scott, the fullback, when he's been on the field, he's been on a fullback, he's been on a tight end, he's played both those spots, much like Ricard would. So they really are, I think, trying to groom their
I
backup.
think so too.
They've had 71 plays with him on the field, and they've run the ball 61 of those times. They're not even making any attempt to break tendencies in this preseason. They're just here's what we got. See if you can stop it, kind of thing. And the other team has been, frankly, fairly effective at stopping the Ravens' run game this preseason. It hasn't been tremendously effective. Our three big backs haven't been on the field, except for the dynamic play we saw from Mitchell in the first game. And other than that, I mean, you're giving carries to guys who are get the game over with guys. Myles Gaskin maybe has a little bit of juice left, but Ali and Dearness Johnson are just guys to get through the preseason.
Yeah, so but this is year 3 of Todd Monken, and they know, it's a what, 10 returning starters from last year, actually 11, because Voorhees was the starter right at the beginning of last season. So 11 returning starters. Like they don't need to tip their hand. They know exactly what they're doing. So I'm sorry, you led into that as something about Cooper Rush in terms of facing pressure.
Yeah, well, he faced pressure very effectively, and because nothing is scary about the Ravens offense or deceptive about the Ravens preseason offense, Cooper Rush is kind of one of the persons who gets hurt, people who gets hurt by that. Leary also, but he has to be better than he otherwise would have to be in an offense that had Derrick Henry behind him, that had other weapons like Keaton Mitchell misdirecting opponents, or besides Mitchell, LaJohntay Wester could be doing some of that. They ran a couple of jet plays this whole preseason, maybe 3. But
so he's playing a vanilla offense.
Oh yeah.
So Tanier writes today, who are the best backup quarterbacks? This is Mike Tanier, by the way, who he used to write for Football Outsiders, the New York Times, Sports on Earth, I guess, and then I think maybe it was 2 seasons ago he branched out on his own and is writing his Substack. And I'm a subscriber. So he writes today basically that all backup quarterbacks pretty much suck. There aren't, a lot of Don Strocks or Earl Morralls, out there
Earl
in the world
Morrall,
anymore.
that's a good one.
Right. I mean, if you are lucky enough to come up with a Tony Romo or a Brock Purdy among your backup quarterbacks, that's lightning striking. That's not the expectation. And then he's got like a capsule about well-known backup quarterbacks, several of them in a row. And so the Ravens section begins, Ravens fans are worried about Cooper Rush. Then he writes, Rush is a top-tier backup quarterback if there is such a thing. He's proven that he can lead a team over a period of weeks without making a bad situation worse. He's one of the top 40 quarterbacks on a planet which, for better or worse, only cares about the top dozen.
Yeah.
Then he writes, fans and reporters, and this was the most reassuring thing I've heard about Cooper Rush all offseason. Fans and reporters may have been evaluating Rush in the preseason, but John Harbaugh and Todd Monken were not. They know that if Lamar Jackson gets hurt, Rush will jog into the huddle calmly, call Monken's play correctly, and execute it recognizably. Rush can hand off to Derrick Henry, toss softballs to Zay Flowers and the tight ends, and game manage low-scoring victories. A team literally cannot ask for anything more than that from a backup quarterback. Many teams, including contenders like the Lions, may find themselves forced to settle for much less.
Yeah, that's a very fair way to talk about Rush. I don't think Rush would have his feelings hurt by that description, and yet he's even played at a higher level than that the last 2 weeks by driving the Ravens down the field effectively.
Yeah. So to me, he settled nerves and answered questions. And along the way, I think he ended Devin Leary's chances at a roster spot too.
Well, Leary was not going to be on the roster. He was going to be on the practice squad. But that does bring up another question, is should the Ravens be looking to bring in somebody else, maybe Tyler Huntley to the practice squad or another quarterback? I want to hear your thoughts on Huntley first before I tee off on him.
I had enough of Huntley when he left. And then after,
You ever have one of those days where everything's off? Well, Mood can help with that. And let me tell you about Mood. It's the online cannabis brand that is changing the way we handle everything, from stress to sleepless nights, with functional gummies that are 100% federally legal cannabis. Mood launched to make cannabis affordable, accessible, and transparent, while at the same time supporting American farmers growing premium hemp on small pesticide-free farms. Their gummies are next level. Seriously, I've tried a few and each one feels totally different. The Sleepy Time gummies, out like a light, immediately asleep. The Epic Euphoria, it's perfect when you just need a reset to feel good again. What makes them unique? Mood combines THC with herbs and adaptogens, so you get real targeted effects. You're not going to find this in your typical dispensary. And here's the best part. Mood ships discreetly to most states, offers a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, and right now you get 20% off your first order with the promo code RAVEN. Just head to mood.com. Find your perfect gummy and use the code RAVENS at checkout to save 20%.
I guess absence makes the heart grow fonder. Today, I feel like I would welcome him back, and probably the first time he appeared on the field, I would be like, "Oh yeah, that's why I wanted him gone." I didn't think, as I cast my mind back on it, I remembered that he didn't have the tools, he didn't have the arm, he um, he's better than Devin Leary, so I guess
Yep.
that's I guess that's the source of my current affection for him.
Yeah, I don't think he's better than Cooper Rush. So I
No.
think that you'd be talking about a guy who belongs as your third string quarterback. He'd be on the practice squad, and the third string quarterback rules. I thought there was talk at one point about changing it so it could be a practice squad quarterback that you could bring up as your emergency guy, but I don't think they actually went to that. I don't
Okay.
think they actually made that change. So as a practice squad quarterback, he's only there to be available when somebody gets hurt and potentially for activations. I guess if Jackson is a little dinged up and you're afraid that you might be down to two pretty quickly,
Hmm.
then maybe you bring him up 3 times doing that. But it's it'll be a tough thing. I wouldn't be real excited. I know a lot of people would be. And I'd want it to be at the vet minimum. I don't know whether Huntley would play for that or not. I don't know if he's got better
I
options.
would want Huntley back if we were looking at, like, say, 6 weeks of Cooper Rush, because I would want him instead of Leary.
6 weeks of Cooper, right? Okay, I gotcha. Yep, him as a backup. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, we've had Tyler Huntley for 6 weeks, and that has not gone well for the Ravens. Twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, it has
um,
not.
yeah. So,
I
okay.
mean, I think, yeah, I mean, we're talking about a situation that I don't even want to say out loud, right, for fear
Right.
of speaking it into existence. So, but under the theory that Cooper Rush is authoritative and is able to, keep the boat floating for 6 weeks, yeah, I'd rather have Tyler Huntley coming off the bench than Leary.
Okay. Let's move on.
Yeah,
Talk about the running backs in this game. Henry, Hill, Mitchell, all rested. They're all certain on the roster. Then it was Ali, then Johnson, then Gaskin into the game. Again, I'm surprised by the total carry load that Ali got this summer. I think it's too high. And I'd say that if you're going to keep a fourth running back, I think you would have cut him out on carries earlier than they did.
that
And
sounds
he
right.
also really caused 2 turnovers or had a fumble that he happened to recover himself and a interception that he caused.
Do you think that Harbaugh's four running backs comment is either A, something akin to draft day smokescreen, in other words, a lie, or B, yeah, we'd like to keep four, but I'm not saying the fourth guy's going to be Ali. Maybe the fourth guy's going to appear from some other team's cuts.
I don't think he should have said it. I'll just
Yeah, I
say
agree with
that.
that.
I
I
think it,
agree
I
with
think
that.
I think it was a mistake. I think first of all, it probably gave away the reason why I think Ali might make this roster, and that is that they're already thinking that Likely has to go on IR and won't be available till week 5.
Okay.
That I by the way, it could be week 9 before Isaiah Likely's back. I
We know
believe
nothing.
that more than I believe week 3. Let me put it that way. And I know that they said, he can be back in 6 or 8 weeks from this kind of injury and could have even possibly been back for opening day. There's a difference between being out of your cast and back in football shape and
Absolutely.
whatnot. And I'm not buying any of that. So I
Okay.
think we're likely to see more like around mid-season than we are even in week 5. And I really don't believe we're going to see him in the first 4 weeks. So as soon as we're there, then I'm like, well, okay, if you need to turn your nose up and get a 25th man on offense, I think you now have room for Ali. You
Why do you
also
need
have
a
room for
25th
another.
man on offense?
Well, because I think it is always split that way. And if you make the offense play short, you can do it on game day, have one less guy, but I don't like it at all.
Okay.
I mean, it's you play 22 and 23 on game day. So in theory, having 26 and 24 is not that much different from the 23 and 22 you might have. So from that standpoint, it'd be okay. But it's not the greatest goodwill thing between your offense and defense, particularly between your offense and defensive coaches in terms of one. But even your players, they probably want the opportunity, on both sides. I don't think this is the first year or the second year that the Ravens are going to go anything other than 25-25, which we'll get to in the roster thing, even though there's an overwhelming amount of young talent on the defense relative to the offense.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a year. So, I mean, this is a year to keep an extra guy on defense because they got the guys. And Rasheen Ali is not the guy to sacrifice one of those guys on behalf of.
I'm completely with you, and I won't be upset if it's 26-24. I just don't think they will.
Okay.
And here's the other thing. I want everybody to be looking at this. Look, there's never going to be a better opportunity than to cut Rasheen Ali, put on a 26 defender on the roster, and say, hey, we kept the best 50 men or the best 53. There's never going to be a better time to say that than this year. If they don't do it this year, they will never do it. They will never do it. So, I'm already at that point because I've seen any number of times in the past, though I can't come up with the exact examples, where they left off players and who were, Zach Sealer at one point. They actually sent him down, I believe, in season when they cut him. But there's a whole bunch of players they've had to let go. They let Gregory Sanat go under effectively these circumstances because they didn't want to keep a developmental lineman spot. And that's, they won't make the same mistake with Carson Vincent, but he was a small school offensive tackle, 5th round for Vincent, 6th round for Sanat. So there are reasons why, it might have been a reasonable comp. It just didn't happen. All right, let's talk. We'll come up with a roster prediction, but I'm predicting 2 quarterbacks. I am predicting 4 running backs, in part because I don't think Harbaugh wants to go back on his word, but in part because I think the likely thing, unfortunately, is going to end up being an IR and not a keep him on the roster as walking wounded.
Okay, I'm with you on 2 quarterbacks. I'm fighting you with 3 running backs rather than 4. That might be a hope rather than an actual assessment.
Okay, and you keeping likely?
I am keeping likely. Yeah, I guess that's the hope part of it. So
part and parcel. I would not be unhappy with that because I think it means likely could be back.
Yeah, so I'm going to say likely does not play week 1. I'm going to say maybe he's practicing week 2 and he's in that well, if he were on the PUP list, there would be that few weeks where he's practicing. Yeah. So I'm going to say like maybe he doesn't play till week 4, but he starts practicing. Like we see him lifting, reporters see him, lifting and on the sidelines and doing drills, maybe individual work for a couple of weeks, and then he comes off the typical slow paced Harbaugh return from injury, which I'm saying in a certain tone of voice. I actually think it's a very, very sound, constructive approach to bringing a player back from injury.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm with you on that, and if the luck is with the Ravens and likely is really healthier sooner than expected, then that would be fantastic. It'd certainly be worth giving up a roster spot for Ali, who will be available on the practice squad almost certainly.
Absolutely.
And will be a guy the Ravens can elevate if they want to. So at tight end, you're keeping 4, including Ricard. So you're keeping all 4 of our normal tight ends, and I'm only keeping 3. So we're at the same total number of roster spots available. We got 16 left for wide receiver and offensive lineman. You can even cut from there. Wide receiver, I'm keeping 6. In this game, we saw Bateman, Flowers, Hopkins, and Wallace all rested. I think those are the Ravens' top 4 guys. Wallace is very important to the team as a run blocker in terms of snaps. I think those are the guys they would hope maybe would play the most, other than I think they they'd love it if Walker took Hopkins' job.
You don't think they'd love it if Walker took Wallace's job?
Oh, they'd love that too, but
Okay.
they'd really love it if Walker took Hopkins' job, because Walker's around for 3 years and Hopkins is only here for this one.
Yeah.
So you're done with all of your relationship with DeAndre Hopkins after this year. So you'd love for it to be the case if Walker becomes the receiver that DeAndre Hopkins no longer could be. You don't want a big drop off to be the reason. You want Walker's play to be the reason he takes Hopkins' job. But yeah.
So you said 4. Now, how many wide receivers are you keeping?
Wait, 6, and the other 2 are Walker and Wester. So
Yeah.
the 4, Bateman, Flowers, Hopkins, Walker, Wallace, and Wester.
I'm exactly the same as you.
Okay.
Except that I would like DeAndre Hopkins to return to about 85% of his peak form, so that Tez Walker can't approach that. So he's taking Wallace's job. And
you bring on significant risk of future retarded 30-plus-year-old wide receiver moves if one of these happens to work out.
So I'm willing to trade that for this year's Lombardi Trophy.
I'm willing to do that too, but I don't think there's a chance in hell that DeAndre Hopkins is the little oomph that'll get them over the speed bump for the Lombardi. They've had the roster in place.
You don't think
the
that
last
the
2 years.
report of the 21 mile per hour that he hit in practice, like the second week of training camp or whatever, that was not the proof of the pudding? That didn't completely put you over the top there?
Yeah, he's been having a knee issue, seems like every day since. He just practices every once in a while, kind of when he wants to. It reminds me a little bit of Deion Sanders at the end of his career. Just he would be around practice. He would kind of show up and practice sometimes. But the best description I ever heard of it was from John Madden, who said, we were here for a production meeting yesterday, and Sanders was on the field, and he's wearing some sweats. And he could get out there, but it didn't really matter. He's almost like he's an assistant coach, and it's just like it's not like he's not there. It's just he practices when he wants to practice, kind of thing.
I quote from the first big first two football books I ever read were Dr. Z's Thinking Man's Guide to Pro Football and Bill Walsh's first book, Building a Champion. And the thing I quote all the time from Walsh's book is he talks about the thing that fans who aren't there every day or aren't season ticket holders or whatever, they see, let's say, a past his prime pass rusher. Well, the past his prime pass rusher still has all his moves. He knows how to set up linemen. He's got his rip and his cross chop and all that stuff. And so if you watch a game, he gets 2 sacks and you're like, he's back, baby. And what you don't see if you're not there every week is that, he got his 2 sacks in that game, and then he can't practice for 3 weeks because of the hammy and the soreness, and he's not available. And so all of these guys who were great players, they can all flash, but it's the young ones who can play every week and be there consistently for you and make plays game after game after game.
I'm always in favor of youth when we get the chance. Let's move on to the offensive line here, because we got to finish this up.
Yeah.
They rested all 5 starters. Then they have a total of 10 that I'm projecting they keep to make it a 25-25 side.
Okay.
And I also think some of their risk in terms of losing players, which is not much across the board, it's just not too much across the board, but some of the risk is on the offensive line. So I have the 5 starters all saying, I also think that Vinson is clearly going to be kept. Noteboom will be kept as the 3rd tackle. I don't think he's in the top 10 linemen we have, but I think be kept as the 3rd tackle. Then Cleveland, Bullock, and Dellinger. And there is one possibility in this group.
You didn't say Samac.
No, Samac won't make the team.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 12th man, maybe looking in from the outside. We got Emory Jones still going to be come off NFI at some point. Bullock is played very well. The other guys ahead of him is Darian Dalcourt. And Darian Dalcourt might be ahead of Dellinger. He came in the game first this last week. They're Dellinger being a 7th-round draft pick, I don't think that protects him from being cut.
No.
I just happen to like Dellinger quite a bit, so I have him as number 10. In the case of Cleveland, he is one of the guys obviously that we mentioned earlier could be used for a handshake deal, so he might not be on the initial roster, but I do expect him to be on the week 1 roster.
So you want to know if I have a different set than
exactly.
that. So we got Noteboom. So after 5, we got Noteboom, Cleveland, Vinson, Dalcourt, and
Bullock, Dellinger.
Bullock and Dellinger.
No Dalcourt.
Oh, not Dalcourt. Okay, so let me do that again. Noteboom, Cleveland, Vinson, Bullock, Dellinger. I'm going to say Dellinger doesn't make the team. I got 9.
And you're staying with only 9.
Yes. Well, through the no, I'm not necessarily staying with only 9. Yeah, there's the first day of the league year machinations, who's on the roster day 1, and then there's some, he signs, DaCosta signs people or whatever.
Okay, I want you to give it to me 2 ways so we can stop the double talk here as quickly as possible. The
I'm
first
going to stay 9. Stay with 9. Okay.
9. Okay, so there's 9 on roster cutdown day, and I believe that could be true.
Yeah.
Will it be 9 on opening day?
9 the week 1 during the week 1 lead up to the game 1.
And then beginning week 2, do you have 10 or 9?
I don't know, because because of roster guarantees and stuff like that.
Yes, roster guarantees, exactly.
I don't have any necessary change, but injuries or whatever could affect. Maybe some guys 50%, and they feel a need to bring a guy.
I mean, the risk of injuries is not just to your own roster, though; it's to everybody in the league's roster. And so the guys who your backup interior linemen, who the Ravens have some good ones, are at risk of being taken by somebody else.
That's true.
So if anybody loses if a couple guards go down in week 1, I mean, the first place they're going to look is the Ravens practice squad.
I'm going to say 10 from week 2.
Okay. All right. I think that's a possibility. So we'll take a look at that. So you're committing to 26-24, even though we're not going to go on the defense. You're saying 24 on offense is your call.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. It would be a break from tradition. That's certainly true. Okay.
Because this is the year. Because if it's ever going to happen, it's this year with the talent that they have. And, Harbaugh prides himself on his flexible, approach to things. And this is the year. Okay.
This is the year. You heard it from Jim ZipCode.
That's right.
First here. So actually, Brad, not first, but you heard it from Jim ZipCode. Anyway, exotic looks. Let's talk a little bit about that. We didn't see any pony in the entire preseason. We saw 1.48 fullbacks plus tight end per play.
Pony is 2 running backs and 2 tight ends?
No, just 2 running backs.
Just 2 running backs and no tight ends. Okay.
Just 2 running backs with however many tight ends and wide receiver you put in
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. It could be 21, could be 22, could be 20. And you just you deploy them differently, and you force the opposing offensive coordinator to figure out what you're doing in terms of the personnel he reacts with. So I think that's coming a lot this season would be my guess. Okay, the reason I think it's a lot, and I always think they should do it a lot, but the reason I think it will be a lot is because Keaton Mitchell is too good to keep off the field.
I agree with that.
And so, we may see it.
Especially if Likely is missing, a few weeks.
Yeah, likely that certainly increases the chance because it decreases your number of heavies, decreases your usage of a fullback. You need something to make up for that. It could be an extra wide receiver in a Wester who would give you some of that same gadgetry juice. By the way, I've always called it gadgetry, but Monken referred to him as novelty plays, which is not bad either. That really gives you an idea of how he thinks of them,
right?
In terms of what's going on. But yeah, it's good.
So in the same sense of like the guys that we don't see play are the ones who are the starters. Do you think that the formation that we don't see, the pony, is something we're going to see a lot of?
Yeah, I think there's some things on defense, some things on offense that we haven't seen yet. We almost are certain something is coming of in this family of options,
Hmm.
and we're going to see it. I mean, we're going to see something completely different and unexpected from Monken on opening night against Buffalo.
Yeah, and because I mean, there's so much extra motivation there too. Like you show up with your good stuff week one anyway, but this opponent and this venue, the
Right.
revenge game. Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right.
I mean, it's huge playoff implications for this game too. I mean, it did
Hmm.
last year too with the loss at Kansas City was horrible in terms of what it did to the
Right.
Ravens' chance for the 1 seed and whatnot. So
Well,
anyway,
although the one that I have the worst trouble with is the loss to the Raiders.
now you're looking back at, yes, I agree. I agree. I mean, that was a terrible loss, but if you could have one and not the other,
Oh,
you'd still
sure.
take the win over the other team that's contending with you for the playoff spot.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, like, I think yes. But assuming that, yeah, yeah, we're in agreement. There's no need to waste time on this.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, they'll we'll come back. We'll see what's going on in terms of what's new. But I'm expecting things to be really fun because the quarterbacks obviously do not allow the Ravens to run most of their offense or much of their offense. Not say, but don't say most, much of their offense,
Yeah,
because you just don't have the same deceptive quarterback element. In fact, even if you had Huntley back here, you really wouldn't have that.
nope.
I mean, Huntley was had a little more speed than your typical backup quarterback, but he ran a straight line and didn't have a lot of third gear Maserati like moves that Lamar has.
He didn't even. I always remember the Greg Roman's last game, the end of the Greg Roman era in Cincinnati. There was a play where Huntley, uh, I think he dropped back left, faking a handoff. So his upfield, his throwing arm was not upfield. His non-throwing arm was
Zone block
upfield.
right, naked boot left.
Yes. No.
He rolled left, is what you're
He
saying.
didn't roll left. I mean, he turned left under center to fake the handoff that he did not make. And then he had to jump to whip his body around to
Huh.
get his throwing arm upfield. And then he threw it. And he was not able athletically to complete that sequence of moves to get enough mustard on the ball to complete the pass. And we don't think of just throws as being particularly athletic, but he didn't have like it would, I mean, Lamar, good Lord, he wouldn't have even had to think about it. But
Right.
like he's Huntley is retreating. His left shoulder is upfield. He has to jump pivot to get his right shoulder upfield and then throw the ball, and he couldn't do that. That's a very small unit of athleticism that for an NFL quarterback to not have. Am I
We'll have
describing that
to.
well?
Yeah, I'll have to go back to the play to really look at it and see what you mean.
Okay.
Normally, to me, I say this all the time. Right-handed quarterback rolling left is death. Joe
Yes.
Flacco, with the way he moved, he just was not capable of resetting his body and throwing
Right.
left off that very often. Some right-handed quarterbacks can do it effectively if they are kind of backing up in that direction and they have the confidence to do it. Roethlisberger and Brady were both in that category of being good at that. But most right-handed quarterbacks, you set your zone blocking left so they can naked boot to the right and
Right.
be on the
Yeah.
right foot
Now,
to
I'm not
throw the ball.
talking about a boot. I'm talking about a
Yeah.
routine play action pass, but he didn't turn right to fake the pass. He turned left to fake the pass coming out from under
Huh.
center.
That's interesting. We had the one play where Lamar Jackson actually deked defenders by pretending to be a left-handed
Yes,
thrower. You
yes,
remember that
yes,
one? So,
yes.
all right, all right, great stuff, Jim. I love talking football with you. We're
Oh
gonna
my
have a
gosh, it's
shorter
such a pleasure for me too.
we're gonna have a shorter episode today because there's a lot to discuss still, but we'll talk about individual notes and some offensive line scoring in the second half. I want to get to that. Tell folks where they can follow you online or talk to you if they want to.
Well, if you want to talk to me, I'm on Blue Sky and I'm on Twitter at Jim ZipCode, and I have a Substack. It's Zip Drive and Dish, and that will be having a weekly piece on the Ravens pass catchers after every game. and maybe a little other stuff as I think of it.
Maryland basketball, a little bit of that.
A little bit of Maryland basketball, but right now the Ravens are driving everything out of my head, and basketball season doesn't start for another couple of months. So
there you go.
But thank you for reminding me. Yes, I do have to. There will be some stuff about that as well.
All right. Other folks out there, if you're listening to this on the right day, it'll be Tuesday. The roster stuff will be completed. And once that is, I want to hear what your concerns are about the 2025 Ravens. Had a few people come forward with some concerns. I could use more. There's a number of shows and days to cover with content. And I want some people who are passionate about what they believe. And we'll talk our way through it. DMs are always open on Twitter. Hit me up there. If you're a regular fan of the show, I appreciate people asking me, what can we do for the show? Best things, two things you can do are, one is recommend it to a friend, show them how to use the website if they don't know how to use podcasts. Older gentlemen, big part of my audience, no doubt. If you also want to write a 5-star 50-word review, we'd love for you to do that too. Jim, thanks again for coming on.
Ken, thank you.
And we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.